neighbor, baby.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the 366 Bikepacking podcast. And in today's show, Old Man Mountain are expanding their experimental bikepacking team, Gorewear is no more, and the hidden benefit of bikepacking that nobody wants to talk about. But before I dive into all of those topics, I just want to say thank you to those of you who have subscribed to the channel, have shared this podcast with friends. I was really surprised at how many views the first episode got, so I'm really excited to keep these going. But as I've mentioned before, it's an early stage of a podcast, so in that scenario, it always takes time to actually gain traction, get to the sort of size you want to get to. So if you enjoy this, if you think it might be worth sharing, you want me to keep doing it, then please do so. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with your friends. I would massively, massively appreciate that. So, for the first bit of bikepacking news, Old Man Mountain have expanded their experimental bikepacking team. If you're not familiar with that, this came out last year and they basically opened up spots for 5 riders to join the team and basically get some support to do some tough bikepacking races. The emphasis really was to encourage people who might not otherwise have been interested in doing these bikepacking events, maybe thought about it in the past but hadn't actually committed to doing it, and support them to help them do it. They were looking for people who were maybe a little bit different, bit alternative, had a good story to tell. They didn't have to be bikepacking racers, they could have been inexperienced. It was a really cool concept. And I'm pleased to say that they're actually expanding this now to 15. Old Man Mountain have said they're going to give free racks, bags and other support to these riders, which is really cool. And apparently there's going to be a 5-day training camp where all of the riders come together. And I think that's really exciting. Given that there's not a huge amount of support out there for people wanting to get into bikepacking racing, or at least start dipping their toes into it, I like to see this and I'm hoping that it will continue to grow. When I first planned this bikepacking podcast episode, I thought I had a few more days after I released the podcast before entries closed, but annoyingly, entries closed the day before this podcast comes out, which wasn't great planning for me. So unfortunately, if you hadn't already heard about this, registration has been closed. But you never know, send them an email if you are interested, they might still consider you. And moving on to some sad news. Gore, the company behind Gorewear and Gore-Tex, have said that they're going to be shutting down their Gorewear branch of the business, starting from spring 2026. At first, when I first read this news, I thought the whole company had gone, and I'm a massive fan of their products. I'm not sponsored by them. They have given me some free clothes in the past, which might be an indication as to why they decided to stop selling stuff. Who knows? But end of the day, they do make really good quality clothes. I've got rain jackets from them, shorts, I've got waterproof trousers which I took to Arctic Finland and Iceland and all of those tough places, and they've just been absolutely fantastic. Really good quality stuff. So I am really sad to see that they'll be going out of business effectively going forward. It did bring home though how tough it must be to actually operate in this market at the moment and bring out really good bikepacking cycling clothes and make it work as a business. The cost of living at the moment means not everybody has loads of cash, and these sort of products are quite expensive. I do think though a lot of us don't mind paying for expensive gear as long as it lasts a long time and it works. And I think that kind of sums up Gorewear. It was really good quality stuff, pretty utilitarian, and it would last a very long time. But my theory behind why it's maybe no longer much of a focus for the business is that it was never really fashionable. It was just really good quality stuff. And I think a lot of the hype in the market nowadays is driven by like social media, YouTube channels, a bit like this. So if there's a really cool product coming out there that stands out, people are more likely to go and buy it. Whereas I've always liked Gore for the opposite reason. It just works, it's not flashy, it's just really good quality stuff. I've got to admit, I was pretty sad when I heard the news about Gorewear. I really like their products, and especially the new stuff that I've been working with for the past few years is never put a foot wrong. But it made me think, my first pair of cycling bib tights were bought for me by my dad when I went to uni, so about 18, 19, and they were Gore bib tights, and I've still got them, and they still work absolutely fine. In fact, I even took them to Arctic Norway a couple of years ago, and they were still absolutely brilliant. They've got a few stains on from chain oil and stuff, but other than that, they're still pretty much in pristine condition. So it's a real shame that those sort of good quality products just aren't selling like they used to. And it does raise the question, which cycling and bikepacking clothing companies do you recommend? I thought it'd be worth reaching out to all of you and basically getting your feedback. If you have any thoughts, please drop them in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify, or drop me an email, whatever works for you. I'd really like to hear your thoughts, because at some point I am going to have to go out and buy some kit, and I don't really know where to turn. And finally, moving on to the main topic, the hidden benefit of bikepacking that nobody really talks about. What we're seeing nowadays more and more is this drive into bikepacking becoming ultra endurance, super hardcore racing, which I don't mind, but that's not everything, and that's not what most of us will be doing. Bikepacking to me is just going on an adventure from A to B, and it can be over 2 days, it can be over a month, it can be over a year, it doesn't matter. However you choose to do it, as long as it's an adventure and you stay somewhere overnight, that's bikepacking to me. One thing I do think, though, is that because marketing companies and other brands are basically forcing this narrative that bikepacking is all about ultra-endurance racing, which it isn't, it's sort of taking away some of the less obvious benefits that us mere mortals get to experience. And what I really wanted to share with you is the benefit of being present. When you go on even a weekend bikepacking trip, it brings you down to earth, and it basically grounds you so that you're focused on the here and now. How am I going to get from here to here? Have I got enough fitness in my legs? What am I going to do if I have a puncture? Where am I going to get my food from? All of these thoughts are just bringing you back down to earth to focus on now. You don't worry about what's going on at home. You don't worry about your work. All you're thinking about is what you're doing now. And I think that's really valuable. I've often found that when I actually come back to reality after I've done a bikepacking trip, I feel much calmer, as if I basically had some sort of meditation retreat, because that's kind of what it is. You've got the mental meditation of being removed from the stresses, just focusing on the present, but also you've got the physical meditation. You've got the repetitive motion of your legs just turning the pedals, and it's a bit like, I don't know, mindful drawing or knitting. You're doing something with your hands that just takes your mind off things, and it's the same thing but with your legs. So having that benefit is really valuable. Another thing I wanted to touch on as well is it really does make you appreciate the things that you have in life. Again, even just a short weekend bikepacking trip, when you're out in the wilderness, maybe staying in a bivy bag or a tent or something, can often make you return home and feel like, oh, I'm so lucky with all the things that I've got here. I've got running water, I've got electricity, I've got my family here. And this is amplified, I find, over longer tours. If you're doing a week, 2 weeks plus, when you come back, it really feels like luxury being in your own home. And you start to appreciate everything that you just take for granted. So I would urge you to go out on a bikepacking trip, even if it's just a weekend trip in your local area, or you just fancy staying in a Premier Inn one night. It really doesn't matter what you do. Just the very experience in going out and doing this will be beneficial for you, both physically, because you're getting out on your bike, but also mentally, taking the time out to be present and appreciate the things that you have in life. This month's podcast is a little shorter because I wanted to take some time to discuss an idea with you that I think might be really cool. I have on my website a page where you can leave a voicemail, and I used to use it for my Q&A bikepacking videos, but I don't really use it as much now. However, it is still there, so what I thought would be a really cool idea is to have your questions answered on the air in an upcoming podcast episode. So all you need to do is head over to the website, there'll be a link in the description, and leave a question. It can be anything at all. It can just be for fun, or it can be a serious question about bikepacking, whatever the case may be. And you may hear it mentioned in an upcoming podcast episode. So please do. At the moment, I haven't got any at all, so if you want to leave some, that'd be massively appreciated. And going forward, I think it'd be a nice segment to add to the show. Basically, listener Q&A. And the only other thing I wanted to remind you about is that at some point in the future, especially in 2026 when the next episode comes out, I'd like to get some guests on. So anyone in the cycling bikepacking sphere. It can be someone who is a bikepacker, someone who has a company that does bikepacking related things, charity work, whatever. It'd be really good to get some interesting people on. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. I have a small list already and it is growing. So if there's anything at all you can suggest that might help grow that list, so other people that I can reach out to for 2026, that would be, again, massively appreciated. Thank you very much for listening and watching. If you like this, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe as well. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.